Hello, welcome back to this new reading log. So this time I'm gonna be reading a lot of first volume because I realized I have a bunch of them. So we're gonna start with Hero Tales. And so I think now the illustration, I'm kind of confused because it says Hiromu Arakawa and then story Huang Jin Zo, scenario Ryo Yashiro, art configuration by Kunasani. You can tell the illustration is very similar to Full Metal Alchemist and Arslan. And this is just basically all about fantasy and adventure. And then, okay, I'm going to do my best to explain the story because I kind of got confused. So, in the story, you got like 7 heroes, 7 stars from the Big Dipper. And 2 of these heroes or stars, they don't really get along. So, maybe they got reincarnated in this new area, and then one of the 2 heroes that don't get along is our main character, Title. He realized he is one of them because he has this tattoo suddenly appear on him, and then he was gifted a famous sword called Kenka Rambu. At first he couldn't pull it until his sister was in danger. He was able to pull it, and then he got out of control with his power. But then suddenly the sword went missing because somebody stole it. And now it's his job to retrieve it because it belongs to him. And now his star name is called Hagen because all the other 6 stars, 7 star has a special name. And they also have a tattoo that will determine that they're one of the 7 star. So on his journey, you got his sister named Lila and a trainer, which I forgot his name. And he found out later that he's actually also one of the 7 star. And then along the journey, on their adventure, finding the sword, they also meet another one of the 7 heroes or 7 stars. So yeah, hopefully that wasn't confusing. It's a big fantasy, a lot of adventure, a lot of action. It's pretty funny because Taito and Lila always argue. I just noticed that there's a lot of sarcasm in the story, but you know what? It's just so fun. And in the end, the enemy who stole the sword happened to be also one of the 7 heroes, but I believe he is the other hero that won't get along with Title because, again, there's 2 heroes will either bring chaos or peace in the kingdom or, in the story. So far, I really like it. Now, this series has only 5 volumes, so it's a short series. Let me show you the illustration. Again, it's definitely very similar to Full Metal Alchemist and Arslan. Other than that, it can be super wordy, but you know what? It's fun to read. I just love the dynamic between the brother and sister because it just makes the story really fun to read. But yeah, looking forward to read more of this series. I definitely need to look and find the rest of the 4. Hopefully it's not hard to find since this series was published since 2009. Alright guys, I just read another first volume called The Royal Tutor by Higasa Akai. Now, we have a young tutor named Professor Heither. I can't really say or pronounce his last name because they use a lot of German last name or names, and it's sometimes hard for me to pronounce. It starts with a W, but yeah, let's just say his name is Professor Heither. He may look young, but he's actually a real adult. And so his job is basically teach these 4 brothers who is royalty. It is because the father is worried about their future. The father wants to prepare them in case something happened to the eldest. And when it comes to the brother, their behavior is not always the best. They misbehave a lot of times, or they don't listen, or they don't really care about their study. And that is why the father hired this young professor. And when the brothers met him, of course, they really didn't want to be around. But the professor is very determined to do his job. And he has one goal, which it never really mentioned in the story. And so we have 4 brothers named, let's start with Kai. He's the second oldest. He's very reserved, shy, and likes cute things. And so he does find the professor cute. However, he does listen. And then we have the youngest named Lick. He's probably the most stubborn one. He doesn't like to study. He always believed like the past teacher always quit right away and they don't really care about them. However, Professor believes that he can do his job. And so when it comes to Lick, he actually likes sports. He's very active. And so one day Professor Lick decided to, Professor Hyder decided to challenge him and kind of race him in a way where, this way Lick will see that Professor Hyder really cares about his work and that he's not going to abandon them. And so after that, Lick finally realized, okay, let's do this. But at the same time, he still doesn't like Professor. And then we have another brother named Leonard. He's very goofy, kind of very well-rounded. However, he likes girls around in his room, blah, blah, blah. And at least he sort of listened. He's probably the second stubborn one. And then lastly, we have Brene. Now, he's almost like a professor. He likes to study. However, at first, he didn't believe the professor because he looks too young. And when he finds out that the professor didn't go to a university, he just doesn't believe that he's going to do well. And so the professor kind of challenged him also. And of course, the professor won over that challenge. And now Brene is very obsessed and he keeps calling the professor master. But of course, professor doesn't want that. So after that, he did give them like a test just to see where everybody is, like their academics and all. And of course, Lick is the only one who didn't really pass, again, because he doesn't like to study. And so now Professor have a lot of things in his hand and how he should, help Lick especially. Of course, Brene came on top because he likes to study. Other than that, the boys are slowly, listening to the professor. They even made a welcome home party. It was mostly Brene because he's very obsessed to the professor. But other than that, it's not bad of a story. It can be a lot because there's just a lot of emotion, good and bad. And I just find this a lot of enthusiasm. But you know what? It's kind of funny. There is an anime. I did probably watch the first 10 minutes. And you know what? I actually like it. Makes me want to read more of this manga so I can watch the anime. And yeah, I'm not sure how many volumes are out there. I stumbled this first volume from a Whatnot seller, I believe. I did find this somewhere in a secondhand online, but I wasn't sure I was going to like it. But you know what? It's not too bad. Here's the illustration. Really like the illustration. It feels like this manga either came out in the mid-2000 or early 2000. Let me know if you guys have read this or seen the anime. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward to read of this manga because it's kind of different from the other mangas that I've read in the past. We have another first volume, and this one's called Inspector. Story by Kiyoshiro Daira, art by Chashiba Katase. I never heard of this manga before. I decided to grab it because it may look interesting. So this story is all about yokai and monster. We have our two main characters in the front cover named Kuro and Kotoka. When Kotoka was, I think she was pretty young when she went missing, and then she ended up in this area where she was talking to a bunch of yokai, and then something happened to her eyes and leg in exchange to become God. Basically, this way they use her to in contact with a human and things like that. Sorry if that was confusing. So she would go to the hospital ever since her incident, and then she meets this guy named Kuro. It's because she really likes him, blah, blah, blah. And then she found out that he has a girlfriend, but down the line they broke up. After hearing that news, Kotaka decided to make a move and talk to him. And eventually they, have a nice conversation. She confessed that she really likes him, but of course he wasn't interested since he just had a breakup with someone. And then for some reason, eventually he told her what happened about his breakup, that he and his girlfriend saw a kappa, a yokai, and ever since then the girlfriend decided to break up with him, thinking that he's either not the man that she wants. And at first he was lying, but then Kotoka believed him because Kotoka actually can see yokai, and is friends with a bunch of yokais. And so at first he didn't believe her until one day there was a bunch of yokai shows up, and now there's something about Kuro too. He confessed that when he was also young, he ate a mermaid and a certain yokai that made him have some sort of special ability where whatever happens to him, his body heals. And so these two have something in common. And now they're gonna, I guess, work together and see what they can do about all this yokai getting out of control. Yeah, it's a very unusual way for them to become friends or so. But Kotoka is very like head over heels towards Kuro, but of course Kuro is not interested. And not to mention she's 17 and I think he's 22. So I'm not sure if there's gonna be romance, but I think there's gonna be some romance. So there's an age gap romance, but at least it's not that, big. And then when it comes to Kuro's ex-girlfriend, sorry, she became a cop and she was either transferred or decided to work a different area. And there's been rumors or a case that there's a lady named Nanase holding a still because she used to be a celebrity and then something happened to her and now she's a ghost, and it's been causing a lot of chaos and people are scared. And then one day when she was off from her job, I don't know if I mentioned that she's actually a police officer. So yeah, when she was off from her job, she was heading home and suddenly she see a yokai, or the yokai lady Nanase, and suddenly Kotoka was also there fighting the lady Nanase. And somehow, of course, Kotoka has an ability to fight yokai, and then the yokai disappeared. And now Kotoka and the ex-girlfriend of Kuro, my goodness, I forgot her name. But anyway, she's a police officer. Now she wants to know everything about the yokai that she saw and everything about Kotoka. And now Kotoka realized that this police officer is actually Kuro's ex-girlfriend. And so it's a very small world that the three of them may one day either work together, but for now it's Kotoka and Kuro. But now Kotoka has, introduced herself to the ex-girlfriend of Kuro. I hope that was not confusing, but it's not bad of a story. At first I was about to drop it because don't tell me this is another age gap romance, but I guess there's more to it because I never read the back. I think I don't ever read the back. I think I read the back the first time, but I just completely forgot the story. But yeah, it's not so bad, to be honest. Not sure when this manga came up. Not sure if there's an anime. But yeah, it's a good story so far, all about yokai and monster. And they're just trying to make sure everyone's okay, making sure everyone is safe. And it's Kotoka and Kuro's job to stop all this monster before more crazy stuff happen. And then along the way, the ex-girlfriend of Kuro is also in the picture. Perhaps she'll probably have something. I'm not sure if she's gonna have any special ability fighting over the yokai, but she's very strong and skillful for being a police officer. But yeah, let me know if you guys have read this or seen this before. I'm not sure if there's an anime. I thought there was an anime because I thought my husband watched the anime, but I checked Crunchyroll and I didn't see it unless it is worded differently. Yeah, so this one's called Inspector. I apologize in advance. I have a heater on right now, so it's going to be extra noisy. So just read another first volume called Skip Beat, story and art by Yoshiki Nakamura. I'm going to be honest, I didn't like how the story went at first, but you know what? I gave it another chance and decided to keep reading. And you know what? It's not bad. So we have our main character named Kyoko. She left her hometown Kyoto to pretty much tag along with her childhood friend named Sho, who wants to become a celebrity, which happened. However, she overheard one day that Sho only wanted her to be around to do things for him, like chores around the apartment and other things, which made her really pissed off. And so she moved out and decided to live in with one of her jobs, which the owner decided to take her in. and then now she has this idea to take revenge on her friend named Sho to become a celebrity as well. And so she decided to go to a talent agency. At first, this director or someone think that she doesn't have the talent or anything else, that she has something to offer, but she didn't want to give up. She was very determined, and she was kind of like stalking this guy from the talent agency until he finally like told her, fine, you can enter this audition. However, during the audition, she did something very unusual which made her pass the first preliminary, but the second like round she didn't make it. I think it's because they realized she didn't have like enough emotion, because she had to act something or react something from a phone. And yeah, that made her really sad, because her only intention to become a celebrity was to take revenge on her friend. But it looks like the president may have a change of heart. He realized if they just train her, maybe she can come out a better, like, whatever they decide on, if she wants to become a singer or acting, because this agency, I guess it's a multi-talent agency. But yes, so that's how the manga ended. And again, Kyoko is very saddened, but hopefully she'll receive some great news. Maybe they'll give her a second chance. At first, again, I didn't like it, but you know what, I'm gonna give it another chance because it's not too bad. I do want to see where Kyoko may end up, and hopefully she'll get her revenge on her friend named Sho, because that guy Sho is a very, very not nice friend who decided to take advantage of her, even though they were childhood friends. But yeah, let me show you the illustration. I'm gonna do my best. So this manga is definitely in the early 2000s. You can see the illustration is a little bit different from like the current mangas nowadays. But yeah, I'm not even sure if there's an anime. Maybe there is an anime, I just don't know that yet. I'm gonna see if I can find more volumes. I'm not sure if these volumes are out of print. Looking forward to read more of this. Alright, let's keep going with the first volume only. What we have next is An Incurable Case of Love, story and art by Maki and Joji, who also wrote My Happy Marriage. Now, I found this story okay, I think, because I am more a slow burn romance. At the very end, I already predicted what's gonna happen. I hate when I predict things and it comes true, because I rather be curious than knowing what's gonna happen next. And so we have our two main characters named Sakura and Dr. Tendo. One day, Sakura was helping someone who was having a heart attack. Then Dr. Tendo was around to help, and ever since then, Sakura, let's just say, fall for him and wants to become a nurse so she can find him. And so she did. She became, at first she was just a trainee, and she was assigned in his department. Then she found out that he's not actually a real nice person, because a lot of nurses think that he's just not very nice. And of course, his true colors does reveal, but later on, he's actually a nice doctor. He's just not nice when someone doesn't do their job properly. And of course, Sakura was very surprised and disappointed, but in her heart, she still likes him, even though she had to go different departments for being a trainee. Like, it feels like she's always thinking about him. And then what's even more funnier is that they live in the same building and also in the same floor, and their neighbor next door. And then she also met Dr. Tendo's sister, who she thought it was his lover, but not really. Now, Sakura, she's always having a hard time because she's still a trainee and still learning. And so Dr. Tendo always gets mad. But ultimately, at the end, something happened, because Sakura was overworked and was sent home. And then she got sick after drinking with the sister. And then Dr. Tendo took care of her and blah, blah, blah. And then something happened, because I don't want to say too much. And let's just say whatever happens, Sakura is falling more in love with him. And that's the part where I was like, ugh, I kind of like predicted that was going to happen. But you know what? I'm not going to make too early of a judgment and just kind of keep reading and see where the story goes. All right, let's see. Here we go. Really like the illustration. It is fun to read because there's just a lot of sarcasm, and these two are always arguing, and the nurses in the department seems to be having fun because their bickering is just seem to be so childish but fun at the same time. But yeah, I'm gonna give it another go to see if I like it or not. Alright, I just finished this manga called Ghost Story. Story and art by Seiju Natsumegu. This is all about supernatural and exorcism. Our main character is an exorcist who also have an older sister named Hanaichi. And then our main boy is Kyochi. And so Kyochi is trying to find his missing older sister. It is because the sister was taken by a god who they thought was got beaten by Kyochi because Kyochi angered a god during an investigation with his friends, because his friends has a club that loves to go around in town and deal with supernatural thing. And what happened next was the god wanted Kyochi, but then the older sister said, no, just take my place. And since then, the sister has been missing for the past 6 years, and Kyochi is just desperately trying to find the older sister. However, he meets this Reaper, the girl right there in the front. It is because she knows the older sister, and the sister also left a ghost diary that talks about everything that she experienced. The Reaper believed if they actually finish the ghost story, it will help her gain her memory back because the Reaper lost her memories, and at the same time she will help Kyochi find the older sister because she knows the older sister. And yeah, not bad of a story so far, except there was a scene that made me very uncomfortable. It was very explicit, and I find that super annoying because I don't think it was necessary to have that on the story. It kind of like ruined it for me, but you know what? I'm gonna give this story another go. I'd say there's a little bit of fan service, I'm gonna be honest. Then again, you know what? I feel like the story has potential because I'm really curious about the sister, about the supernatural, because I like supernatural time to time. It's not really my genre, but you know what? I'm always curious about, supernatural and another spiritual world. But yeah, other than that, I don't think I want to show you guys the pages, to be honest, because again, I just find this manga a little bit of fan service. And again, there was a scene where it just made me very uncomfortable. It was just not good, to be honest. But if you have read this, you probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I am going to give this another chance and see if there is more fan service. I'm definitely going to drop it for sure. I just did some research. So this manga is a very short series. There's only 3 volumes total. I don't agree with this rated teen, to be honest, because no. This is definitely not rated teen. I would say this is like, 17 and plus? Yeah, definitely. We have another first volume only, and that is Tower of the Future by Saki Hiwatari. I actually like this story, to be honest. We have our main character, Takeru. He likes to daydream and imagine of a story and creating this hero. However, there was a tragedy that happened in the story. His mom passed away, and her dying wish was to meet his stepsister, different mother but same father. And of course, he was in shock. He didn't like the idea because it seems like it was like a big betrayal for keeping this secret for a long time. And now he's either want to agree or not. But the father wants to bring the sister. However, he realized that he should be thinking about Takeru's feeling, and I think the father said that he's not gonna bring the sister. However, the sister was looking forward because the sister lives in London. The father of Takeru is actually half English and half Japanese and so forth. And the weird thing about this story is that whenever like Takeru goes out, time to time he would meet this young boy out of nowhere, would start talking to him. Sometimes he waits outside of his place, and this boy is a big mystery in the story. There's a little bit hint from the beginning, but I got kind of confused. But yeah, I would say the little boy is probably the most interesting about this story, because somehow it feels like he knows all about Takeru, because he'd say stuff that might already happen, if that makes sense. But other than that, yeah, not bad of a story so far. I really like it. It was a very quick read, and I believe this manga either came out in the early 2000s, because you can really tell. And let's see, oh, maybe not, because the price is $9.99. And oh, it's a different manga publisher called CMX. But yeah, that's the little boy there, and that's Takeru. Yeah, definitely interesting about the little boy. But yeah, when it comes to Takeru is definitely going through some rough time about the mother, and then suddenly he found out that he has a sister. Aside from that, besides of him, creating all this story in his imagination, he kind of fell hard on a girl that he didn't really meet her. He just saw her because he was going to this high school that he wants to apply, is because the mother really wants him to apply to school, since this school has probably had a good review about the English part. In other words, the mother really wants Takeru to learn English, because again, the father is half English. But yeah, let me show you guys the inside. Yeah, I definitely enjoy reading the story, because Takeru, sometimes go in his world of his imagination. Then suddenly, I think about what happened to his mom and the sister. Definitely made the story very unpredictable and sort of like a twist, which I didn't expect that. So if you guys have read this manga, let me know. I tried to check when this manga was published. Not sure if it's really early 2000, because I saw, not sure if it's the same manga or story that it came out in the 1980s. I'm not quite sure. So let me know if you guys have read this. And yeah, here's a very popular manga called Vampire Knight, first volume. Story and art by Matsuri Hino. I actually like this story. It's not bad. So we got our main character, Yuki Cross. She attends a private school called Cross Academy. She was actually saved by a vampire when she was young. And since her parents was in Iran and she got lost, this vampire named Kaname took her into the school. And ever since then, she's been attending this school, and also is part of the disciplinary committee. It is because there's two different classes. You got the day class and night class. I feel like you guys already know that the night class is mostly for the vampires. Only Yuki and Zero and the headmaster, or maybe a few people, know about the night class being all vampires. Now, the day class doesn't know anything about that, but the vampires at night class are very beautiful, and so everyone is always waiting for them to come out to go to their night classes, because they only come out 9 classes. Other than that, we also found out that Zero, he was also saved by the headmaster, because Zero actually come from a family of hunters for vampires. However, their clan was wiped out, and Zero was the only survival. And we found out that something happened to him as well. Let's just say he's gonna turn to a vampire, because a pure blood vampire bit him. And so whenever a pure blood bit a human, they can turn to a vampire. So Yuki was definitely surprised to find out about his secret. And of course, Zero took his first bite on Yuki. But of course, Yuki is not going to turn to a vampire, because Zero is not a pureblood. But anyway, I hope that all makes sense. Basically, you got a school that has day and night class, because vampire exists in this school, and they're trying to have vampires and humor coexist, maybe slowly, because right now I guess vampires are still seen as monster, and of course a lot of people are scared of them. But when it comes to Yuki, she's not, because she was saved by one. But yeah, so far I really like the story. I've heard of this manga before. There is definitely an anime. I'm not sure if I'm still gonna commit to getting a box set, because there is a box set. I think I'm gonna read like a few more volumes and see if I want to get the box set, because I do like the story so far, and I love reading vampires. And so yeah, okay, I'm not sure when it came out, maybe early 2000 for sure. Really love the illustration. I'm always a big fan of early 2000 illustration. It's just more detail in my opinion. But yeah, good so far. When it comes to Zero, he actually despised vampire, knowing that vampires wipe his clan, but he has no choice but kind of coexist with the vampires because he is one right now. And Yuki, being such a big supporter, is gonna be there for him. They also create this blood pack that if Zero goes crazy, then Yuki has the power to stop him, something like that. But other than that, it's a really good story so far. We have a very popular manga called Vampire Knight. Story and art by Matsuru Hino. Is all about vampires, and vampires are trying to coexist with the humans, except there's a big secret in this school called Cross Academy. It is because you got the night class and the day class. Now in the night class it's just mostly all vampires, and in order to prevent from the day class finding out about the night class, we got two disciplinary committee member named Yuki and Zero. These both are actually was taken in by President Kaname from the night class, who is a vampire when she was young, and then Zero was also taken in by the headmaster when he was young also, is because his family, who is a clan of vampire hunters, was wiped out by vampires, and he was the only survivor, and so the headmaster decided to take him, and that is why Yuki and Zero only knows about the night class, is because they experienced something when they're young dealing with vampires, because Yuki was almost attacked by a vampire, then President Kanami saved her and so forth. So that is why it is their job to make sure the day class doesn't find out about the night class. Now we do know more about Zero. This might be a big spoiler, so please be aware. Zero, we find out that he's actually going to become a vampire, because when he was young, during the whole attack by a bunch of vampires, he was actually bitten by a pureblood. When it comes to that, a pureblood can turn a human to a vampire. And so Yuki was very surprised to find out about Zero being a vampire, because Zero despised vampire. But now Zero has to control his hunger and all sort, except Zero took his first bite towards Yuki. But Yuki is totally fine and very supported, because they've been knowing each other since they were young. Of course, they were taken in by such a young age as well. And now they also made a blood pact to make sure that if Zero goes berserk, it is Yuki's job to make sure he stays put and in control. But yeah, really good story so far. I really love it. It's a different vampire story that I never read before, and I've known this manga before because it's a very popular anime slash manga, and yeah, I really like it so far. And so let me show you guys the illustration. I'm always a big fan of the early 2000s because the illustration is just more detailed, and the it's a little bit different from the modern manga. Not the dialogue, but if you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna read more, and whether or not if I'm gonna commit to getting a box set, because there is a box set, and usually when you get a box set, it costs less than getting the individual mangas or volume, if that makes sense. But yeah, looking forward to read more of this. Alright, I'm gonna end this reading log. This time around I did a first volume only because I had a bunch on the side, and you know what, I don't mind. I need to change my way of things when I grab new manga to read, and just stick to getting the first volume in case I don't like the rest of the story. For example, like An Incurable Case of Love. This was not bad to a point where I noticed the pattern is this pretty much the same like other romance. Ghost Diary definitely was kind of uncomfortable for me in some scene, but since it's a short series, I might read till the end. Tower of the Future, definitely enjoy, except this is probably one of the hardest to find because this manga came out in the mid-90s, so it's definitely out of print, as well as Inspector. I did some research. 5 and 6 is hard to find. Royal Tudor is another one that is gonna be hard to find, but the stories were really good. I really want to like see if I can find them for a really good price, maybe secondhand, because these are actually all secondhand. Hero Tales I did enjoy. This is another short series of just 5 volumes. I don't think it's gonna be hard to find. And then lastly, Vampire Knight. There is a box set. I did check the price. It's a little bit high, but I think I'm just gonna stick to find them single. And in case I don't like the story overall, I don't want to rush myself just to get a bunch of volume just because. But yeah, every single one, there is some good and bad part, but you know what? There's no such thing as a perfect story, and that is okay. And that is why I need to read more in case whether if I want to continue or not. And let me know if you guys have read any of these. Do you like it? Do you recommend it? And yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this reading log, and I'll see you guys next time.